Rob Tebbutt for Boxing News, delighted to be joined by Shane McGuigan. It's one of those again. It's a late night, early morning reaction interview. Shane, first and foremost, congratulations. Brilliant performance from Chris Billam-Smith to retain the WBO Cruiserweight champion and still.
And still, mate. Yeah, I mean, the one blemish on his record, he avenged it. He avenged it on a defence of his world title, in a stadium, in away soil. You just can't script it. He's some man, that lad, and he boxed really well, and I'm very happy and proud of his performance.
You mentioned that he boxed very well. I think over recent years in particular, the words that have been used to describe Chris Billam-Smith, entertaining, attritional, effort, all of those good things, durable. Tonight, though, I felt like we saw a different layer to Chris Billam-Smith. It felt like it was a very disciplined, intelligent performance.
You got to win someone's and entertaining others. Do you know what I mean? And a prime example was Scott Quigg versus Carl Frampton. You had to win and win that fight, and then you entertain in the Leo Santa Cruzes, and you got to have the right dance partner to be able to bring that out. And I think like the Richard Riakporhe or Lawrence Okoli, like a subpar Chris Billam-Smith cannot show up on those nights. He has to stay disciplined. He has to win those fights with intelligent and be able to. After 4 rounds, he was well ahead. I thought he won all of the rounds. He might have shared the first. But he could have just got reckless and started to go through the gears like he did against Isaac Chamberlain. But no disrespect to Isaac, he knew he was never going to be able to hurt him with one shot, and he didn't respect his power, and that's why he sort of ground those fights out. He was well ahead, but he made it entertaining. But you can't make fights like against Richard Riakporhe or Lawrence Okoli entertaining, because one, they won't let you because they don't like to throw in volume. And two, they have heavyweight world-class power. Do you know what I mean? Not world-class heavyweight power, but they've got world-class power, and they've almost got like heavyweight power. So it's extremely important to show up on those nights, and he's done it twice now in stadium.
Just talk to me a little bit, if you can, about in stadium. I saw him tonight, actually. Uncle Luke, he was there. Yeah, shout out Luke Campbell. Talk to me, if you can, about the game plan. I'm going to turn this down because we both like to get distracted. Very good fight at Gary Antoine Russell and Albert Puello, but we're going to put this down so we can stay focused here. Talk to me, if you can, about the game plan. As I mentioned there, it seemed like a much more disciplined performance from Chris Billam-Smith. What was it? How much, I spoke to you in the week, how much did you take from the first fight? How much of this was kind of a game plan implemented based on recent Riakporhe fights? Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, when he was with Mark, he was raw, but he was unpredictable, a bit like Lawrence Okoli. When he's unpredictable because he's so raw and he throws them shots and he sometimes smothers his work, but it's full force and full intent, and that with a 6'5", either of those guys 6'5", big punches, that can easily be overwhelming. And for Chris in the first fight, he wasn't experienced. He was boxing all wrong. He didn't know the right way to win. Even though we'd sat down and looked at the Sam Hyde fight before that fight, we were like, you need to nudge this guy back, and you can't go back because that's where he gets his leverage, and you can't give him the end of the shot. And he did that far too much in the first fight. Tried to pepper him, use his speed. Felt like he was up. Felt like he won the fight. But you just need to do more. And tonight, the only success Richard had is when Chris was going backwards. Got pinned on the ropes a few times and allowed Richard to sort of like fire it in to chest height and lift the shots, and never hurt Chris once. But I'm sure he has the ability to hurt anybody as a cruiserweight. Chris was doing specific drills that we were working on, and with a guy that is like Richard working with Angel, and it's not to say that Angel's a better coach than Mark or Mark's a better coach than Angel or whatever. It's just when you've got a guy that's raw like that, it's like a muscle car with 700 brake horsepower and no traction, but that rawness is super effective. And if you start trying to refine him, it takes away from that power and that unpredictability. And I was looking at the Dion Juma fight, and Dion was just small dips, changing. Hate that phrase, changing the levels, because it's all these fucking phonies that don't know what they're talking about with boxing. They always changing levels, but like it just small incremental moves, just nudges, either dropping in, dropping out, sitting down, and staying within your base all the time. It was literally just like boom, boom, drop, boom, boom, drop, and he couldn't set the jab up. So once he can't set the jab up, he can't set the right hand up, and that was the telling factor in the fight. And he also he doesn't like to fight on the back foot. Really struggles to fight on the back foot. Can't drop back and punch on the right hand. Lawrence Okoli can. So that's why it was an easier fight than against Lawrence tonight. And they both can punch, but he won both of them.
Obviously, it wasn't one of those fights that we've grown accustomed to seeing from Chris Billam-Smith. You mentioned there Isaac Chamberlain, fantastic phone box fight for 12 rounds. Were you, obviously, certainly not to detract from Chris's performance, were you disappointed with Richard Riakporhe? Did you expect more from him tonight?
No, you can't say. I mean, he didn't stop trying. I was impressed, actually, because after about 6 rounds, I thought, Chris is going to get to him. He's going to stop him. And in about the 9th, he actually started to let his hands go. But there was a reason why he wasn't letting his hands go. There was a reason why he wasn't fighting to his strengths. It's because he was getting it taken away. And like the jab was offsetting the rhythm all the time. The fact that he was going boom, boom, couple of moves, firing a jab. Next time, couple of moves, sliding underneath. Couple of moves, dropping back and working. He was just 1/2 steps ahead at all times. And that is that's the difference at the top level. That really is, and you just can't get into a fight. And as Adrian Broner says, once you get to the top, man, all these motherfuckers can fight. It's about how they prep, right? And it's about how disciplined they are, and that's the truth. Richard Riakporhe can fight. He can jab. He can throw all the shots. So can Chris. So can all these other guys. But it's extremely important to stay disciplined.
Sorry, just getting called from Mrs. WBO Cruiserweight Champion Mia Billam-Smith. Chris is at the end of the fight. Obviously, it wasn't winning the world title at Bournemouth. That kind of night is sacred to Chris, and he kind of says that nothing will quite be like that. But the outpouring of emotion, not only from him, but from yourself and Josh Pritchard, going into this fight, obviously being an underdog despite being the world champion, did that make the victory that little bit more sweet?
This victory is really, really sweet. 5 years ago, on July the 23rd, my sister passed away, and I think the fight was on July the 21st, and she got ill and she passed away within 5.5 weeks. So we were already in camp, and there was a lot of time spent. Oh, I'm getting fucking chills. There was a lot of time spent in the hospital, and my mind and Chris's mind was. Most important thing apart from boxing is family, and that there for me being so close to my sister and my family, we went through with Chris boxing that fight. Obviously, selfish, like I can't selfishly say no to it, but it wasn't a good version of Chris Billam-Smith. It wasn't a good version of myself, and I feel like. I always wanted to get that one back for Chris's sake and for my own sake as well, and it was a lot more than that victory tonight. Do you know what I mean? It was so deep and so layered, and I also wanted to make sure that I really fucking showed up tonight. I really showed up as a coach because it's been 1 or 2 times in my coaching career that I've thought. Probably wasn't. I didn't perform, as a coach. I didn't help them in the best way, and I wasn't emotionally there or whatever. And that would have been one of the main ones in reflecting on my career as a coach and the nights we've had. And tonight I feel like it was one of our best nights. To get him to be so disciplined, and after 6 rounds he could have easily started to drop the hammer and outwork. And the fact that he didn't do that, he had so much left once Richard started to try and push the pace and throw everything in his kitchen sink at him late on in the fight. And after about 10 or 11, you could see he knew he wasn't going to catch him. And Chris was just 1/2, maybe 3 steps ahead. and it just broke his will and broke his spirit.
You mentioned there about kind of keeping him focused on the game plan, not allowing himself really to get too wrapped up in his own successes. Obviously, I was watching the fight in the arena, so I haven't seen what was being said in between the corner. What were you saying to him in between the rounds?
Saying, listen, stick to it. You know, like this is this guy's. I was saying loads of things throughout the fight, but at the end of the day, it all boiled down to this was Richard Riakporhe's night. This was all supposed to set up for Richard Riakporhe, for him to knock Chris Billam-Smith out, to win the world title. Let that fucking guy force it. Let him come to you, in terms of like let him try and drive this fight. Because as soon as he starts to try and drive the fight, you can just meet him with shots and offset him, and he did it perfectly. And you know, you don't broke what's working. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, don't fix what's not broken. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and what we were doing, or what Chris was doing round after round was working. You know, yes, he could have landed more on him. He could have hit him to the body more. But like, he didn't ever fight out of himself, so that he started to be slack defensively. And once or twice he pulled out and got caught. But you know, he always had his vision. He always had his senses there, and that when you're in against a puncher, you know, like, at the end of the day, like Richard Riakporhe the whole way through this build-up was always talking about his power. Talking about once he lands and he's going to knock Chris Billam-Smith out. He didn't say he's going to outbox him. He didn't say he was going to outwork him and fight at a higher pace than him. He just said, "I'm going to knock him out, and once I land, and you know, he's going to go to sleep." Didn't happen.
That's okay, no, it's fine. I'm tired as well, which is why it took me a second there. The scorecards, 116, 111, and 115, 112 times 2. Thoughts?
116, 111, 115, 112 times 2. Well, I said to Ben Chalom, I said, you fucking tried to give it to him. In terms of, like, you tried to gift it to him. And, you know, because that was shocking. I am really harsh in the corner, and I gave him the 3 rounds, right? Maybe one shared. I mean, like, if you look at it, he could have maybe, I don't know, could he have shared the 12? Could he have shared the first? But, like, you're effectively giving him the rounds. Like, and if they're close, like, the champion has that right. Do you know what I mean? Like, they should have that right. I was disgusted. Like, if that point hadn't have been took off, where are we going from there? Shocking. Absolutely fucking shocking. Sorry for my language, but it's just, it's so disappointing. It's so disappointing. And you can't, you know, but it has, like, boxing has to be better. It has to be better. Because imagine if that had been, that fight was wide, right? The whole way through it, there was one person in control of it. Richard had his spells, but they didn't last longer than 20 seconds. It was 36 minutes in there. And throughout, there was maybe less than 2 minutes of Richard controlling it, right? Before Chris would switch it and control the action. And imagine if that had gone the other way, or even if, like, because there was 2 of them, it wasn't just the one. If it was, where does that? It's like, we've got the best platform. We're on Sky Sports. It's the most amount of eyeballs at the moment by far. You know, are on Sky Sports. Like, and you've got the opportunity to go and fucking ruin it and stuff like that. It's just disappointing. It really is. Not just because he's my fighter, but, like, it's disappointing.
Yeah, it's bad for the sport. It's not just kind of an individual kind of case by case.
It will get brushed away. It's just like George Groves when he got stopped against Carl Froch. Everyone brushed that away. Froch was up. How did, like, he was like sharing one round, and there was, George was ahead on 1 and Carl was ahead on 1 or 2 going into the 10th. It's like, come on now. Like, there was one, like, clear winner throughout that first fight. Like, obviously it was dubious, and, you know, in the end, the way it was stopped, but, like, and then they both made a fortune in a return. So I understand that they both won't question it, but imagine it was a 10-round fight and it went to the points, and it was like a draw or a split decision. Like, you'd been like so incredibly disappointed in the judges in Froch. Groves won, and you would have been sickened if this had gone the other way. Well, as fans we would be, right?
Absolutely, well said. Kind of the notion that sometimes that, oh, well, the right guy got it can paper over the cracks sometimes as well with a scorecard. You know, well, the right guy got it. Well, yeah, but I mean, I just, full disclosure, Boxing News app, download it now, App Store and Play Store. I had it 118, 109. So I had 2 rounds for Richard Riakporhe on my scorecard. But anyway, yes. But anyway, moving on to slightly brighter topics. What next for Chris Billam-Smith? You've been there. You've seen him through Commonwealth, British, European, and world champion. I think I'm being shouted at. I think we've got pizzas. We're going to have to wrap it up very quickly. What next for Chris Billam-Smith?
Well, you know, he needs challenges, right? Like Chris is a guy that. No disrespect to Mastanek or no disrespect to the person before, Georgi before he boxed Lawrence Okoli. Like he didn't get up for them. Like even though they said, trust me, I'm zoned in, but they're not. Like he's not, and maybe he's zoned in on the night, but for the 8 or 10 weeks prior when he's going to sleep, he's not going to sleep nervous. He's not going to sleep, feeling like, okay, we've got X amount of days counting down. I've really got to make sure every day counts in camp. And that's where we need to keep a guy like 33 years of age who's become a world champion that was supposed to be touted to be lucky to win a British title, British, Commonwealth, European world champion, had 3 world title fights, 2 stadium fights, made some money. Like, you need to keep that guy fucking motivated. And the way you motivate him is he's an experienced person. He loves experiences in life. He likes to experience time with his wife and his family, and as he said in the post, he's always looking to become a better person. What's a better father, a better husband, a better a better friend, a better boxer. Like the way he challenges himself is to get unification fight, and for us now this is where it swings into our side. I want him to become a unified world champion and fight for the undisputed cruiserweight world title. That for me is the end goal for Chris Billam-Smith in terms of like becoming a undisputed cruiserweight. I don't want him to go up to heavyweight. I want him to win that and then get the fuck out of boxing. Right? Sorry for my language again.
It's okay. I think people are used to this, particularly at this time.
But that would be like you're writing down a fairy tale ending. You know what I mean? And the way that happens is you give him experience to go out and box in Vegas or LA against a fan-friendly style in Gilberto Ramirez, who's got Mexican and American following. You announce yourself in the States and you let Opateo try and box for the WBC. Hopefully with Riyadh season they can make stuff like that happen. And then you box this time next year in an undisputed fight. Hopefully Chris comes through it, and hopefully Opateo comes through it in an undisputed fight against Jay Opateo. And everyone can, you should just do it now because it's there's money's there and everything's there, and it's like, of course that's what you guys want, but you haven't spent fucking 7 years, right, developing talent and working when he was getting paid like $1,000 for a fight. Right, to get to this moment, and that's when you get to this moment, you make sure you don't make stupid fucking decisions, and you make the right decisions, and you give a guy like that an opportunity to go out and
with some pizzas and some fancy lights, bro.
The pizza boy.
And achieve his dreams. Top man, thank you, mate.
It's the pepperoni and the margarita. That's
beige margarita. That's on you, mate. I love the pepperoni.
To be fair, I did get 10 large pizzas. So there's I ordered them all. There's lots of different ones downstairs as well. We've got the pepperoni and the margarita here, but there's like all sorts of stuff. Anyway. I can't remember where we were, but let's move on. Out of those fights, Zurdo Ramirez, Noel Gavor, McGuigan, depending on what that is, Jai Opataya, which one do you think is the most likely next?
I don't know. I haven't thought anything further than Richard Riakporhe, and we've had a great relationship, and we've got a great relationship with Sky Sports, a great relationship with Boxer, and they've delivered. They've done things that we've asked, and they wanted Richard Riakporhe to win tonight. And as much as they say that they wouldn't, they don't. They did, and I don't blame them because he signed with them before Chris, and Ben has a good relationship, but that there is also that has wound Chris up a little bit, and like we were happy to go and do. Like I saw it as okay, we had the opportunity to box in the O2 Arena or Selhurst Park, and I was like, take the Selhurst Park because you're going to get up for that, and also it's going to be detrimental to Richard Riakporhe because he's never been there. He's been to the O2 Arena. Been to the O2 Arena against Chris Billam-Smith. He's never been to Selhurst Park. He's never had a whole football stadium, even though I'm sure he's a casual fan, a very, very casual fan of Crystal Palace. But they were there for the occasion, and you know they wanted him to win as a home South London boy. But that whole experience can be overwhelming. For you, so we've put so much emphasis and time and energy into that tonight, and then once we're going to have a couple of interesting phone calls in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and he deserves all this shit, man. He really does, because like he was a undercard fighter on DAZN, and he was he wasn't prioritized, and Eddie's a big time promoter. But sometimes you've got to look right down at the potential of a location like Bournemouth and a really nice person like him, and you can make a star out of someone.
Final one for me, because the pizza smells good and I am very hungry, and I know you want to get back to your lovely family. You mentioned there kind of the journey that you've been on with Chris, and obviously you mentioned the first Richard Riakporhe fight and all of the personal issues that you were going through, and kind of the bond that you had, obviously predating that but becoming closer because of it. I'll put this to you after the Akoli win. I'll put it to you again now. Is this your greatest achievement? Is your work with Chris Billam-Smith your greatest achievement as a trainer?
I think it would have to be. But then again, it's kind of a discredit to him. Do you know what I mean? Because he came to me with probably 20% of his reaching 20% of his potential, athletic potential and boxing potential. Whereas other fighters like Josh Taylor in the GB getting world-class sparring 4 days a week, or do you know what I mean? And they might have either George or someone like Luke Campbell went to the Olympics. Like they're maxing out. Like they need a team and a structure. Like the team and a structure helps on nights like tonight. Chris Billam-Smith's already developed, right? And it's like, well, how do we not have a mistake, like a worse performance like what happened against Masterneck, or how do we correct those? And and that there is where your team comes in terms of like you have to hold respect with the fighter, so that they understand that this is like I have to switch on. This person expects this from me. You know what I mean? And that comes when you work with someone. It really comes when you work with someone when they don't have anything. Do you know what I mean? If you got somebody coming in like Canelo coming to my gym, it's like, I'm training you. You got a shitload of money. Like, is he going to be looking at me like, is he training me because of the money, or does he think that my best days are ahead of me? Do you know what I mean? And like that there for Chris, that's why that bond is there. It's because, like Eddie Reynoso and Canelo can look around the room and think like every single dude, whether it's from the TV to the promoter to the matchmaker, everyone wants something from me. And Reynoso, of course he wants to present it, but do you know what? He stood the test of time, and he did it when he was 15. He put effort and time into him for 15 plus years. And like, we're not as a fairy tale story as Canelo, but it's a great one in its own right. And I thought, it's been a brilliant story. I hope it continues. I hope he goes on to fight for an undisputed world title. But also, there's been some good job. I've done some good jobs with people that might have been touted to do stuff. They might have got dropped a few times in the gym, look shit, and then people are like, and then next thing you know, they become a world champion. Do you know what I mean? So like, and in the inner boxing circle might go, yeah, he's not really going to do anything, and then suddenly they do something, and you're like, oh, that's cool. But with Chris, it was always like, what are you taking that guy on for? So I'm glad. And you don't win everything. You don't win it all. You know what I mean? But it's definitely a success story for sure.
And final one on the man himself. Aside from being the WBO Cruiserweight Champion of the world, what does he mean to you? Chris Billam-Smith, if you can sum that up.
He's taught me a lot. He has taught me a lot in terms of perseverance. He's been a great friend. I've had some shit times. He's had some shit times. Listen, it's life. Everyone goes through ups and downs. And, you know, we will genuinely be friends for a long time. I hope for as long as I'm alive and he's alive. So he means a lot. But he's also taught me that, you know, you never stop striving for extra stuff, you know, extra percentages. And like, for me as a coach, like, yeah, I've achieved quite a bit. Like, I was trained a world champion when I was 25 and stuff, and it's quite easy to be like, you know, go through the motions. But he makes me want to be in the gym. Do you know what I mean? And be in the gym and look, you know, and look for little ways and how to get better, because I look at him, striving for every ounce of his ability, and I'm thinking, all right, well, if I can do that as a coach, and if Josh can do that as a coach, and if everybody else can do that, then it's like, well, fuck, we're going to win here. We're going to win as a team. You know, it's an individual sport, but it's so important that you have a good system around you, and you know, it works, and so that's what Chris Billam-Smith means to me, mate.
Well, there we go. I think that's probably a good time to call it. I miss doing these. We don't do them very often. Once a year, maybe, probably now we get these late ones in, but always a pleasure. Thanks very much, Shane McGuigan. Congratulations on another fantastic win and performance from Chris Billam-Smith. Wish you all the best and look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thank you, Rob. Big shout out to Boxing News and all the team. Even though we don't get, you know, blessed with his presence as much as we should do. Yeah, he's doing apps, merchandise, everything these days. But it's good to see. You've got a good team around you, and as always, mate, it's wicked. Good stuff.
Congratulations again.